Alrighty.
Do you have this with you?
I don't have the financial. It's just one thing. I don't think I have it.
Yeah, I looked at it this morning, if you had it or not.
No, they were on the other side.
Oh, he's over here all the time.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to report on the financials that I approved on January 18th, Resolution 18-010. It was simply some then and nows for the building department in the amount of $2,192.54. These were obligations that were closed out erroneously, so we had to process them as a then and now. So that was done. Okay.
Okay.
And then number 2 is I'm reporting on items that I approved on January 19th and on January 22nd. So on January 19th, for water resources, I approved and executed a service contract agreement with Fallow Tree Services, perform tree removal services including after-storm damage at various locations within the department for a 2-year period, 18 and 19, an amount not to exceed $2,500 each year. I approved and executed a service contract with Lake County Sewer Company, Inc. to perform general emergency cleaning, televising, routing, and rehabilitation of sewer lines and manholes at various locations within the department for a 3-year period, 18, 19, and 20, an amount not to exceed $30,000 or $10,000 a year. I approved and executed a service contract with Buckeye Power Sales to perform generator services and repairs as needed in the wastewater section within the department for a 3-year period, 18, 19, 20, an amount not to exceed $7,500 or $2,500 each year. On the 22nd, yesterday, I approved for, on behalf of the Airport Authority, acknowledged and approved reimbursement request number 4 for FAA grant project number 339-054-18-2015, number 339-0054-1815 to rehabilitate Terminal Apron Phase 2 in the amount of $25,245.53, which was $22,721 FAA portion and $2,524.52 local county match. For maintenance, approved and execute a service contract agreement with SA Communal to perform annual inspections, testing, and maintenance for fire sprinkler, fire alarm systems and devices for Geauga County Safety Center for the period 18 through December 2020, an amount not to exceed $30,000. For transit, grant permission to advertise internally for the position of full-time driver number 2210 with applications accepted January 25th, 18 through 4:30 p.m. on January 31st, 18. And finally, grant permission to advertise for 2 positions of part-time driver, job number 2210-1. These positions will remain posted until filled.
Okay.
They have their own children, their medical expenses, so for December.
Anything else, Dave?
Nope, that's it for me.
For your approval, yeah. Saving us a lot of time.
Okay, the financials for today include cash transfers from the general fund to community development and Metzenbaum for the 4th quarter 2017 interest transfer. There are then and now certificates from the auditor's office, ADP, and the sheriff, and there are travel requests from DES for Roger Peterson to attend several classes in Columbus put on by the Ohio Township Association. And there is, among the vouchers, it's rather small financial session for vouchers. There was a $22,047.34 from the Commissioner's Office to the Ohio Department of Health for the BCMH treatment expenditures for December of 2017.
Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute resolution number 18-11, itemizing the financials for the meeting of January 23rd, 2018.
Oh, sorry, so second.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yes.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Spudler?
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gotta get you in the groove.
Dave.
Yeah,
You get the hang of this.
Number 4 is the request to approve the encumbrance expenditure. This is to pass over to the Fair Board the gas well revenue generated off the gas well that's on the fairgrounds property.
Okay.
Not a huge amount of money, but I mean, a little bit helps.
Yep.
That's right.
Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve an encumbrance and expenditure to the Geauga County Agricultural Society pursuant to ORC 1711.15 and 1711.16 for the year 2017 in the amount of $821.75, which is the total gas well revenue received by the county through December 31st, 2017 from a well located on the Geauga County Fairgrounds property.
So moved.
Second?
Commissioner Claypool?
Yes.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye. Okay. Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Good.
Do I keep third the distance?
I am not sick yet.
Totally.
I'm
Yet? There's a lot of
yeah, you said
people sick.
I'm trying to stay away from it. I said we kind of had a cycle going on at the office with sick clients coming in and then goes through us. And,
Oh, yeah.
We're trying to quarantine ourselves as best as possible. So
Going through the list and we're all like,
yeah. It's
Knock
been
on
going on
wood.
since October, so hey. So I have 2 service agreements. The first is with the Board of DD. It's to occasionally use their paratransit vehicle. Typically, when the senior centers, they have excursions or trips, we try to drive one of our own vehicles first. And then sometimes if we need a second vehicle, we'd like to work with Metz and Baum and pay $1.25 a mile and have one of our staff drive it. It kind of, as needed, we will use transit in more inclement weather, but it's $3 and some cents a mile. So we just try to use our own staffing whenever we can. To
Because
save
transit's
money.
required to charge that amount for contracted
Right,
service.
and
That's their
also-
actual cost per mile to operate a vehicle, so that's what they have to charge.
And it's great in inclement weather because not everyone is comfortable driving a 14-passenger vehicle in the snow and whatnot. But the one benefit is when we're able to drive these vehicles, they're on site the whole day. So when there is an emergency that happens, we do have the ability to leave. Whereas transit, they drop off and then they come back and pick you up a couple hours later. So sometimes it is a benefit to have a vehicle on site for trips.
Okay.
It's a 5-year contract and it's not to exceed $20,000. So.
the Department on Aging is requesting the Board approve an RTP service agreement between the Geauga County Board of Developmental Disabilities and the Geauga County Department on Aging for the occasional use of a paratransit vehicle for the period January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2022 at the rate of $1.25 per mile for use of vehicle in an amount not to exceed $20,000.
So moved.
Second?
Commissioner Claypool?
Yep.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
All right, the next one is our legal services agreement with Straff & King Law Firm for our elder care law services. We cap it at 775 hours because at some point you just have to set parameters for the program or it'll run infinitely and cost a lot. So it's about $81,400 is where we cap it at. They've been at the agency since I've been there. I've done an RFP before. They were the best and most reasonable. Their rate is reduced to us because they submitted an RFP to the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging, and they subsidize part of their hourly rate as well.
What was the cap on that again? I'm sorry.
It's 775 hours.
And how much of that did you use last year?
I'm going to say we probably used about, I don't have the exact amount, but if I were to guess, probably between 80 and 90% of it.
Really?
What we do is, once this is approved, we schedule 775 hours. We schedule the days and the attorneys to be at the different senior centers. What we can't control is cancellations. So when someone cancels their appointment and doesn't show up, clearly we're not billed.
So what, just to be clear, I guess maybe I missed it, but what are they representing clients, Geauga County residents?
So it's for elder care services, living wills,
Okay.
kind of estate planning. We do healthcare power of attorneys. My staff do that, but financial power of attorneys is something you'd want an attorney to do. Questions, they do transfer of death affidavits with the Good Deeds program. We work with the recorder's office as well. So more elder care. We're not looking, they're not really going to represent you in a divorce or any kind of criminal
There's a limit on
case.
how much per person?
We usually do 3 hours per person per year.
Anyone over 60?
60 and
That's
over.
registered with the program. Yeah.
Do you have to qualify for this program? or is
Well,
this-
that's a great question. Good question.
Yeah.
We did change our framework last year, so if you are on any kind of governmental assistance, we fully subsidize the program at 100%, so we are paying that $142 an hour. However, if you make above that threshold, we are requiring that you pay $25 an hour, so about 25% of the cost.
And I know that I said this last year, and I'll say it again this year, and I'll have to probably say it again next year. But at $81,000, at 775 hours, a full year of work is 2,080 hours. Is as far as a work week. I have a problem with this. I'm going to say yes because I get it. We have to provide this service, and it's something that's necessary. But I really think that we could give better service at a lot less to the taxpayers, bringing in somebody on a full-time level that wants. There's a lot of attorneys out there that are good attorneys. They're not making $80,000 a year, and we could bring in somebody that could be 100% on board, or potentially talk to the prosecutor's office to see if we could add him another prosecutor under.
We did that.
Him.
We did talk to the prosecutor's office.
And what did they say?
That was outside of their scope. They don't do.
But if they would support it, we could bring somebody in, and we could have somebody on staff full time, 40 hours a week, and pay the residents. This is 775 hours. 2,080 hours is a full time work week for the year. We could get twice the amount of bang for the same buck. I know that this has been here for 5 years, and I've signed it for the last 5 years, but I could tell you that it's frustrating every time I sign this because I would never do this myself. I think that it just doesn't make sense to, and maybe this law firm would, I'm not saying, it sounds like they do a good
They're
job.
elder care law firms.
Yeah.
There's Pat Schraff is one of the few elder care attorneys in Ohio.
But even if it was a situation that we subcontracted with them, as far as, I don't know if we could, we always get into that issue there, but if there's a potential for them to send us, refer us an attorney or something that we could have on a full-time basis that we could put on our payroll.
Yeah, it's kind of a head scratcher to me that there's a shortage of elder care, because there's all these attorneys that don't have enough work.
There's a lot of training and a lot of extra certification and
you
classes.
think
to
if an attorney
work
wants to
with.
make a living, that there's not.
And I would agree with you. It'd be
It
worth
was-
looking at.
The regular rate is
We're getting
between
1/3 of the service.
Yeah.
In the
Now,
regular.
it is, and there was a discussion going on here. It is a specialty that is kind of unique, and so, but that doesn't mean if we had our own attorney that we couldn't skill them up and go through the certification process. So I'm very sensitive. I'm on board with what you're saying, Ralph. I'm not sure how we would get there, what the steps would be, and if should we set this aside? Should we do a temporary contract? Should we, I don't know what the right process would be. But I'd be very supportive of looking at that because it does make sense.
I would say their typical rate is between $225 and $275 an hour. That is the regular.
Right.
That is their regular rate.
Now, for full disclosure, I didn't come to the Department on Aging. I actually engaged Draft personally and paid them the full boat out of my own pocket, and they did my entire estate and estate planning and the all of the associated documents.
So just to be clear, the qualifications to be a part of this, so you have to be over 60 and
Correct.
also what?
You have to be over 60. It's a first come, first served program. We limit up to 3 hours per person. If you are on governmental assistance, we do fully subsidize the cost for this for you. In the past, we had fully subsidized for anyone.
Okay.
As of last year, if you do not receive any kind of assistance and make above 150% of the federal poverty guidelines, we are requesting you pay $25 per hour.
Per hour, okay.
So,
Okay.
so what is your take on what Ralph brought up? Have we looked at that in the past, and why
We
did we go that
did
direction?
do
And
some
so-
speaking with the prosecutor's office. We did do that. As far as hiring attorney on house, I'm wondering who would be responsible for their supervision and their compliance, and who would be paying their liability insurance. Those are some questions that I have. Clearly not having a legal degree and being in the field, I'm not qualified to supervise an attorney, and I'm not really aware of any kind of liability issues that they would have from a client that would want to sue them based upon an estate matter. That's something that I can't speak to.
Yeah, the liability issue is a thing aside. We have liability insurance as a county. We have prosecutors. They're covered by liability insurance. From an employee perspective, at least from my take on it, they're an employee. Now, you have a lot of experts on your staff that you're not qualified in their field. You supervise them. And so this is just another employee. You supervise them. It's an attorney. We might get the prosecutor's office to provide some performance review or something, maybe some outside review. That's another, if I'm playing devil's advocate, that's another strength to having an outside firm, is because you have multiple attorneys in the office. If one's out, you have others that can backfill. And
Yeah, we work with about 5 or 6 different attorneys at the Strapping King firm, and sometimes they will send 2 attorneys at a time,
but that doesn't.
depending on what they need
Let me
to do.
suggest, maybe Linda could talk to Beth Miller of Corsa, who's an attorney, and see if there are other counties that employ attorneys to provide services for residents, and what are the implications of doing that? Is that feasible to do that, or is there some kind of a liability issue that
I mean, we
we're
follow the
not aware
guidelines.
of?
The Strapping King, they do follow the guidelines for legal services under the Older Americans Act,
Sure.
and that is what they're following,
Sure,
and
that's
that is
their
what they're
specialty.
getting subsidized.
Is this a
on.
requirement for, is this something that Geauga County has come up with? I mean, are you mandated to offer this type
Absolutely
of?
not.
No.
No, it's just, there's the Citizens Support a Levy that brings in over $3 million a year. And advisory board over the years, they look at, okay, how do you prioritize where you spend that money? And a need that's been identified is a lot of seniors need help at least getting started working with an attorney in areas peculiar to their situation as seniors. And that's what these guys specialize in. We've looked in the past about trying to get other attorney or law firms to competitively bid on it, but we really haven't gotten a good response.
When we did the RFP ourselves, we were looking at $225, $250, $275 an hour.
Right.
Yeah, and the qualifications of the staff, they were not, they were not practicing very long, whereas Strapping King, you have folks that are practicing 20+ years.
Now we start with the reality check. Is it feasible to be covered for liability insurance if the county employs an attorney to provide services for residents? And Beth Miller can tell us that.
I mean, we cover the prosecutors, attorneys, I don't know why we wouldn't be able to cover another step.
Well, I think the difference is now we're talking about an
General
attorney
public.
to service the general public. Is that maybe
I'll certainly
just see what she says.
I will.
Yeah.
So relative to this request, though, is this something we want to do, or whether we want to set it aside and look at it, make a temporary agreement? What's the mood of the board?
Well, let me ask you this, because you bring up a valid point with the liability, because I didn't think about that, but I mean, our prosecutor's office has to have some form
They do.
of.
Yeah, they do.
Like when you talked to him, was there a possibility that he would be interested to do something like that?
I've never asked them directly if they wanted to come on staff.
Or no, like if he would hire somebody under the prosecutor's office so that as far as the legal part of it, he could supervise, because obviously, as far as attorneys, they got to there's mandates of continuing education, all this other stuff that he could assure that we're doing things right and that's covered. But ultimately, if that was a situation that it gives him that ability to oversee that on the legal part of it, and then that person would be assigned to aging, no different than when Tim Taylor resigned. The prosecutor sent over Craig Swenson to kind of assist with that because he was also involved in that was kind of one of his areas that he dealt with a lot. I'm just saying that. Listen, I support you, and I support the Department of Aging 100% because it's important that we do. But I'm just looking at what could we actually do to even better serve the public and
Make the dollars go farther.
Yeah. I mean, if we're spending
This is really part-time
Yeah,
versus having a full-time person. There would be a real advantage to having somebody sitting there full-time.
Right.
And by the way, on this conversation about liability insurance, we're in kind of a unique situation because in government, and I'm assuming you would be considered under that governmental umbrella, there's something called sovereign immunity. And so from a lawsuit standpoint, the amount to sue is somewhat limited. And so I don't know what the impact of that is. I'm certainly not an attorney.
Well, in
even though I
addition,
like
the
to play one.
prosecutor's office for years contracted with JFS to provide an attorney who provided services to people.
Yeah, yeah.
Very similar.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's a very valuable conversation, certainly something to beat up a little bit.
I don't think we would get it done so quickly that you wouldn't want to also act on the contract.
Because this contract is just up to, correct?
We already have the days planned
Okay.
and I mean, and they're scheduled, so we would have to call all the clients and cancel their appointments at this point.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, let me explore with you a little bit
Okay.
here. So this is a contingent agreement. In other words, if you schedule appointments, you pay them. If you don't schedule appointments, you don't pay them.
Right, we have scheduled appointments.
No,
with
no, I
clients,
understand. I
yes.
understand. So let's say you've scheduled 2 months worth of appointments.
Mhm.
At the end of the third month, if we decide to go in a different direction, the agreement doesn't say we have to give them X amount of business.
That is correct.
It just means that we can give them business if we choose. If we chose to take a different direction, we could. So we could authorize this, let you schedule and continue the process, go do our homework, and if we choose to not execute in a schedule with them going forward, we have the option to do that.
Well, if I could have a preference here, I'd preference either we don't move forward or we do, because we ran out of hours in, I believe, July of last year. So we're probably going to schedule throughout the 12 months. I mean, Karen was already kind of plugging people in who needed visits and to sign documents.
But just so we don't
So I just kinda
interrupt
don't
some of the
wanna-
people that have already been scheduled and we move forward on this,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, we can start to explore the option of that. And is this committed that we are going to pay them this 775 total hours?
It's up to, we don't pay when people cancel, but we do schedule
But
as much as possible.
let's say something were to be figured out through the prosecutor that we could bring somebody in, we are not on the hook that we have to go with this firm, correct?
Right, we're not
No,
obligated.
but I would
Okay.
hate to then tell someone, hey, you've done most of your will paperwork, but you can't sign it now, we're going with a different
Well, I mean, and
attorney, you know.
we would be willing to, if there's a startup in something like that, I don't think that
Yeah,
any
do an
of the-
orderly
any of us
transition. Yeah.
would disagree to try to get the completion of that 100%. We wouldn't. That is not our goal at all. We want to facilitate this as much as possible. I think our goal is if we're going to put this out, what could we do more? You know, what could we bring a better service? You know.
For the same amount of dollars.
For the same
The
amount of
transition would be
dollars, yeah.
relatively straightforward. Anybody that Traffic King were seeing, they would complete that process. If we've hired somebody new, they would simply come over and take up the schedule. And so, just because you have a schedule doesn't mean that a Traffic King attorney has to comply with the schedule. We could bring our own attorney and they can complete the schedule. And so, it's your schedule, not Traffic King's schedule.
And have you had any good relationships with any of these attorneys?
They're wonderful.
Yeah, that they would, you know, I mean, you never know. One of those might even be willing and interested to possibly do something like this.
I would have to speak with Pat about that, you know, running the law firm. I don't know if there's any
Right.
non-compete clauses that they have to sign
Okay.
or anything, you know, that's quite possible. I know
Right.
that some non-compete clauses, you're not even allowed to work in the same county that you previously had business, so.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, typically, we schedule for the year when the contract goes through. I do know they get this funding from Western Reserve, and probably if we don't want to use this, they'd probably like to use this in maybe Lake County. The law firm would like to, you know, get their grant funding from Western
So
Reserve.
some of what's paying this is coming out of the Western Reserve Area on Aging.
About $100 an hour.
Oh, okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they received a grant from Western Reserve Area on Aging to provide legal services. And
I don't
instead
see
of-
that on here.
And instead of charging us,
So they're getting
That
that
is their
separately?
contract, yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
going
it's
to them
a sub-
separately?
yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
So there's grant money come to pay for $100 an hour.
So if Straff and King is charging $200 an hour, they're being subsidized by Western Reserve.
So
Well,
They're
big
receiving
deal.
grant money.
right, but so we're being charged 125, but in reality,
100.
100. Sheriff and King's actually making 200
Well, it says
Yeah, you're
125.
You're at $100.42
because they've already
per hour,
pulled
up to
that money out.
655 hours.
Right, because they're getting a,
You
Yeah,
see?
this is
Yeah, but I mean, our
yeah.
fiduciary responsibility is to our citizens,
Right.
not to Traffic King.
Right.
No, I
I
get
love
it.
Traffic King, they're good
Yeah.
people, blah, 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 but our
Right.
fiduciary responsibility is to our
That's
citizens.
after it's been
Yeah.
already pulled out.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I would
This is a-
suggest that we move forward with this agreement, because it's a contingent thing.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
only pay them when we use them.
Right.
And then try to sort out as we go through this, if it makes sense to bring in our own attorney. If it does, we'll just do a transition. Okay, it'd be pretty straightforward and
Yeah,
see if
no,
we can find
I-
a good person.
And I know that I brought this up last year too, and it's just a struggle with it because I just you know, sometimes common sense just
No, you're looking at
should-
just like the whole thing, like the engineer for water resources. You're paying this money to an outsider.
right.
Would the money go farther if it was someone on staff?
And look at what we're doing with
It's
it.
a lot of money.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, for a whole lot less.
And by the way, you know, here's just another thought I'll float. We could use an attorney in here sometimes, you know, so, just saying. Could report to Dave.
We might-
Yeah.
we might wanna
what,
stick
have
with-
Because I'm qualified to manage.
Have our
Well,
own
we actually
Full-time
have-
attorney on call. Yeah.
Just saying, okay.
Okay.
Maybe it's just, not all the ideas are good
No,
ideas.
right. Just spitballing.
All
We
right.
want to go ahead then and read number 6.
The Department on Aging is requesting the board approve and execute the legal services agreement between the Geauga County Board of Commissioners, the Geauga County Department on Aging, and Patricia J. Schratt, Esquire, of Schratt and King Company, LBA, for legal services that include counsel, advice, and representation of clients that are Geauga County residents aged 16 over for the period January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2018, in the amount of $100.42 per hour for up to 655 hours and up to an additional 120 hours in the amount of $125 per hour for a maximum of 775 total hours.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Claypool?
I abstain.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
I
It's in doing business.
thank you.
See the deal first.
Okay, so community economic development.
Good.
Hello, Joni.
Morning.
Morning, how are you?
How are you?
Good, thank you.
How are you? So what have you got for us this morning?
Well, as the commissioners are aware, the CDBG revolving loan fund, any loans made out of that fund are tied to job creation. So we made a loan to the Patty Group for $193,000, and they created their 8 jobs, and we have to send the proof to the state. So I'm asking you to sign off.
And those are full-time jobs, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Patty Group's a landscaping company, or design, yeah. Good.
Community Economic Development is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute the Office of Housing and Community Partnerships Ohio Small Cities Community Development Block Grant Program Job Certification Summary for the Petty Group Incorporated as they have fulfilled the job creation portion of their revolving loan fund.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yep.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Hi. Alrighty, and then we've got.
The next item is from the prior program. We had the CHIP program,
CHIP.
Community Housing Improvement.
This is
Program.
this is 03.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we're still collecting.
Yeah.
So this is 2 mortgages that have now been paid off from that program. So we're just asking for the mortgages to be released.
Yeah, this is just a copy of the mortgage.
Okay.
The Office of Community and Economic Development is requesting the board approve and execute the satisfaction of mortgages for Dean A. and Jennifer J. Carlo for property located at 123 Ford Street, Jordan, as the mortgage in the amount of $10,000 for a down payment loan under grant BC 030261, and the mortgage in the amount of $20,780 for a rehabilitation loan under grant BC 030262 have been satisfied.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yes.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Bye-bye.
day.
Thank you.
Okay, that one is done.
So Roger, I got to ask you a question. Sir. If I understood your post correctly, you've been serving on the volunteer fire department for 27 years?
Yes.
And you are, so that meant you started in your mid-teens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a junior firefighter explorer program. Last night at home, I told my group that I'd like to step down as assistant chief. I'll still help out. I'll still respond as a paramedic.
Now, what city is that?
Bloomfield.
Bloomfield, okay.
But I just felt that, we did contingency plans at DES last year, and I thought, you know what, if our fire chief steps down, I don't want to be fire chief.
Like, uh-oh.
Yeah, so let's put somebody in that will, some fresh ideas, some fresh thought, and I'll
There you
still
go.
be there, but
I just wanted to recognize, you know, the fact that you know, as a relatively young guy, how much you've served and how much you've given the community. I mean, you're a township trustee, which pays you about $3 an hour, baby.
Yeah.
But all this service as a volunteer firefighter, I just think that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Okay, number 9, LEPC pays DES a fee every year for us to maintain the records, for us to file the EPA requirements, for us to do the training, for us to do the chemical filing forms, and it's $12,000 a year in 4 installments. When Ken was here, LEPC was paying more because Ken was getting out and doing a lot more training.
Well, before all that, there actually was an employee.
Yes, we had a
Full-time employee under LEPC, so they were spending a lot more money.
Yeah, there was a compliance employee. So, and then we also respond out to hazardous material spills. We take care of ordering the supplies and materials. You know, we were up at Jake's Park for the diesel fuel, and so. But that is what number 9 is.
Okay. Nope.
The Department of Emergency Services is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute an agreement between the Department of Emergency Services and the Geauga County Local Emergency Planning Committee to provide the following services to LEPC: administrative support, emergency response coordinator if elected by the Geauga LEPC, secretarial treasurer responsibilities, information coordinator if elected by the Geauga LEPC, compliance, plan development and exercising, grant applications, training and maintaining of all required chemical filing forms and records in the amount of $12,000 for the year 2018.
So,
Second?
Commissioner Claypool? Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Right.
Okay, so for number 10, the license that Perry operates under is very specific and very detailed. Perry Nuclear Power Plant is looking to align themselves with industry standards. So what they are doing is they're asking for the tip of the hat or the blessing on the license amendment request. There's 4 things specifically. Perry complies to a 30-minute response time for the technical support center. Industry is 60 minutes. There's different levels of when they're going to operate them. They just want to align themselves with industry standards. So that's what Lake has already kind of said okay, Asheville has said okay, so we're the last ones to formally bring it up. And
they didn't run things by industry standards before?
they are by industry standards, but they're above and beyond.
Also, they're going to scale back?
They want to scale down just a little bit, and because that'll lower operating costs for them, lower personnel. There's a lot of engineers, I believe, that have to live within 30 minutes of the plant.
Mhm.
So now, by going to industry standards, they're allowed to live within 60 minutes of the plant. So it's
I
just,
see.
yeah. And then this is also, a lot of this has to do with, this is all 1985 stuff and 1986 stuff. So, where you had all these clerks that would come in to write things on chalkboards, well, now we just PowerPoint projector it, and it's, so there's a lot
Yeah.
of common sense.
And you've reviewed that stuff and you're
Yes.
okay with it?
Yeah.
Because we would go with your suggestion, recommendation on it.
Yeah.
Because generally, making the standard less stringent with a power plant would
Right.
worry me a little bit.
Right. No, we talked at length with Perry. We talked at length as well with Lake and Ashtabula, and it's just common sense stuff.
Okay, good.
It's amazing how much that place has shrunk as far as personnel.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably less than half.
I would believe you're probably right.
Yeah.
But an interesting thing that's a little unrelated to this, First Energy is ordering new fuel to refuel.
Really?
Not Perry, because Perry's not due for fueling, but they're refueling Beaver Valley and they're refueling Davis Bessie, which are both older plants that are, you would think that if,
Yeah.
When do you
I mean, they were. I mean, it sounded like the writing was on the wall there at Perry. As far
Well,
as
I think they were
shutting
trying
it
to,
down.
put pressure on
Yeah.
to get a subsidy or something.
Right.
When are they going to refuel? If
Shut
they
it down.
refuel, Perry, when would they be doing that?
I believe, we just went through a refueling last year, and I believe it's a 3 or 4, and I'm not positive, but I believe it's a 3 or 4 year
I
cycle.
got to go. They offered the commissioners a tour when it was shut down for refueling, so you get to see more than you normally do. It's
Mhm.
really neat to see.
It's
He
an
was
amazing
gone for
place.
3 weeks.
That's right. Tan, it was nice. That's right.
That was when Craig
No, I think that was before, well, maybe that was when
No, I
Craig was
think it
there.
was when Craig was here because his dosimeter.
Was higher than everyone else. We kept saying, quit touching stuff.
That's
We come out,
they were-
and turns over the dosimeter, and Craig's was noticeably higher than anyone else's. It's like, he can't help himself. Explains a lot about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Department of Emergency Services is requesting the board authorize Director Roger Peterson to approve the proposed Perry Nuclear Power Plant radiological emergency response plan license amendment request.
So moved.
Second?
Richard Clayton.
Yes.
Richard Lennon.
Yes.
Still not quite. No, what else, yeah.
Do you want, you got, oh, okay. All right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Roger.
Thanks, Roger.
Yes, sir.
Got
Okay.
that run yet?
We'll talk about it, but yeah, we're ready to order. I just want to make sure everybody's warm and fuzzy with it. Okay.
Thank you.
So number 11 is going to be a motion for us to appoint Dennis Bergansky to the Planning Commission for a 3-year term ending December 31st of 2020. Is that the correct amount of time?
Yes.
Okay.
It's 3 years?
18, 19, and 20, yes. Originally, when we did Tracy's, we did it for 4, and if not, it was 3. So
Oh,
we made
right.
that
Pretty
correction.
single.
That's what I, yeah.
December of 2020, so yes,
Okay.
it is correct, it's for the 3 years.
Yeah, Dennis is a good guy. Met him on a few occasions. He, good guy from Auburn. I think he's real involved
yeah.
in the community, and
Yeah, I think
He's
he'll
a-
be a good asset. He's a realtor also.
he is a realtor. Yeah.
Mhm.
Kids
I
go to
talked to him
Kinston.
last night
Yeah.
about one of his kids' chickens at the fair.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
He's
So
really
he's a good-
involved
he's a good
at
guy.
Kenston.
I
and-
talked to him at
yeah.
length last night. He's gonna be an interesting dimension to the planning commission. He doesn't have a lot of experience in that whole planning, but he has a lot of good ideas and thoughts, and he lives in Auburn, so.
Good family. His parents live right across the street from me. They're nice people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think is he still out in Bedford
Yeah.
Heights? Yeah.
Bedford, yeah.
Yeah. Bedford.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Mr. Claypool?
Yep.
Mr. Lennon?
Yes.
Mr. Spadil?
Aye.
So that closes your vacancies for the planning commission.
Good.
So until something changes with Rogish, you're good. You're
Until
full.
we hear what's going on there.
Why would is he looking to pull out?
They're still, you guys were still waiting for a response on.
Is there
because
any
he's-
conflict with him being a
township
township
trustee
trustee?
Oh, okay. All right. So number 12, we need a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing the employment of a public employee in the commissioner's office.
So moved.
I get a second?
Second.
Commissioner Claypool?
I'll just take it
I wanna
over.
keep you,
Hold on.
in practice.
Commissioner Claypool?
Yes.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Spudler?
So Linda and I'd like to come in if that's okay with you guys.
Oh yeah.